what did you do right out of high school?
I joined the military. I joined the United States Army. Hoorah. Mostly because family obligations. I think I was the third or fourth generation. My brother was not eligible to join. He had asthma as a kid growing up, so I felt like it was kind of like my job to carry that torch. It was also kind of funny because I had a relative who had joined and was not successful in making it through basic training, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to show them all it can be done. So that kind of led to it. Plus, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go to college, but I was not really honed in on exactly what I wanted to do. So part of joining the military, growing up, we take these little tests to see how we're doing in school and things like that. And then I remember I want to say my 10th grade year at high school, we did some kind of test, and it was like, I want to say it was kind of like a personality test, but it wasn't. So it was kind of gauging you as like what you would be good at, and mine was public service, medical, just things like that. My dad was a coal miner. My mother was a teacher. So how I became medically inclined, I have no clue. I kind of feel like there were times when Dad would be laid off for a period of time, and he would drive an ambulance for a company that was in Yeager at that time. And part of that, he had to get his EMT. And I was just fascinated by the stories I would hear the grown-ups talking about, you know. And I think that may have kind of piqued my interest at that time. So, yeah, I just kind of wasn't sure what I was going to do, didn't know which way I was going to go, but I knew I needed to do something because you cannot, it seems like, especially at that time and more so now, that it's very difficult to have a successful career without some form of secondary education, be it a technical program or a college degree or something to that nature. So, yeah, I joined. The original job that I wanted to do was already booked. There was a waiting list for like a year to a year and a half, and there was no way I was going to wait that long. I wanted to go now. I was ready. Desert Storm had just turned, I think the events had turned around to where the American military was on the upside of it, and it was winding down, but there was still a mission to be done.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I chose the next available slot for training that I could leave, go to basic, go on for my MOS training and so on, and it was an orthopedic technician. I ended up, that was really cool. I learned so much so fast and was really exposed to a lot of good orthopedic surgeons, a lot of major trauma care. It was very interesting, but it was kind of getting oversaturated after probably about the first or second year. So I kind of sidestepped a little bit and then became a paramedic in the military. And that was interesting too. So I kind of started developing a love of trauma, an adrenaline junkie, I guess you could say. So it was good, and I was able to help. I was able to care for people quickly and at some of the most vulnerable times of their life. So that was an amazing feeling. After 4 years, almost 5 years active duty, I came home and I was still serving as a reservist. I don't think they even have reserves now. I think it's all state National Guard type stuff. Federal reserves, I think, is very far and few between. But I served as a paramedic there. It was 302nd Field Hospital in Huntington, West Virginia. And Civilian, I worked as a paramedic in McDowell County. Loved it. I also worked at 911 for a little while too. I was a 911 operator here in McDowell County. I also worked in Logan County and Wyoming County. So I was a workaholic.
Yeah.
But times changed, funding, insurance reimbursement. You know, after several years as a paramedic, I was making less than what I made when I first started. And the job was harder. Things were more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. So I decided to go back to school, and I went to Bluefield State College, now known Bluefield State University, and I obtained my nursing degree. My first degree was an associate. And after that, I graduated in 99, I think. Yeah, 99. Anyway, I worked as an ER nurse and trauma nurse and ICU nurse several years. And then, I don't know, 10 years later, I decided to go back to school. I went through WVU and got my bachelor's, my 4-year degree as a nurse. Continued my career in emergency medicine, critical care. 10 years later, I decided to go back to school, and I obtained my master's through Chamberlain University. And I have been serving the citizens of McDowell County for the last 6, almost 7 years as a nurse practitioner, primary care provider at one of our local clinics. But I cannot give my love of emergency medicine up, so I also work as a provider in the emergency department locally, a few shifts a month.